The gunshot echoed through the Seoul warehouse in Yongsan-gu like thunder trapped in a metal box. Michael Chen felt the bullet tear through his spine before his brain could register the pain. He was falling, the concrete floor rushing up to meet him, and in that endless second between standing and hitting the ground, he understood that his life as he knew it was over. 3 years later, Michael sat in his wheelchair outside Mama Aid's kitchen, an Afro-Korean fusion restaurant in Seoul's Itaewon district. Rain hammered the awning above him, and through the window he could see his date gathering her designer purse with the practiced urgency of someone fleeing a crime scene. She had taken one look at his wheelchair when she arrived at the restaurant, manufactured a story about a sudden work emergency, and now she was paying at the counter and heading for the door. Michael watched her disappear down the crowded Itaewon street, her high heels clicking against the wet pavement. He should leave. He should wheel himself back to his accessible apartment in Hanam-dong, where everything was designed for a man who would never walk again. But something kept him there in the rain, watching the warm golden light spill from the restaurant windows, listening to the mix of Afrobeat and K-pop drifting through the door, smelling the combination of suya spices and Korean barbecue. "You planning to sit out here all night, or are you going to come inside where it's dry?" Michael turned. A woman stood in the doorway, one hand on her hip, the other holding the door open. She was beautiful in a way that made his chest tight. Her skin was deep brown, and her hair was styled in intricate braids that fell past her shoulders. She wore the restaurant's uniform, a clever blend of Nigerian Ankara fabric and Korean hanbok styling, and she spoke Korean with a slight accent that told him she had learned the language as an adult. "The woman you were supposed to meet," she continued in perfect Korean, "she's a fool. Any woman who judges a man by his wheels instead of his character isn't worth your time." Michael found himself smiling for the first time in months. "That obvious? I'm the night manager. I see everything." She stepped out into the rain, not seeming to care that it soaked her immediately. "Nina Adeyemi. And you are?" "Michael Chen. People used to call me Ghost." "Ghost?" Nina raised an eyebrow. "That's either a very cool nickname or a very concerning one." "Probably concerning," Michael admitted in Korean. "I'm trying to be different now." Nina studied him for a long moment, rain dripping from her braids. Then she smiled, and it transformed her entire face. "Different is good. Come inside, Ghost. First drink is on the house for anyone who gets stood up in my restaurant." Inside, Mama Aid's kitchen was a revelation. The walls were decorated with both African masks and Korean traditional fans. The menu offered everything from jollof rice with kimchi to bulgogi, with suya spices. Korean ajumas sat next to Nigerian businessmen, everyone eating and laughing together. The music seamlessly blended Burna Boy with BTS. Michael wheeled himself to a table near the window, and Nina brought him a glass of soju mixed with zobo, the Nigerian hibiscus drink. "This place is incredible," Michael said, looking around. "It's the dream of Mama Adi and her husband Park Sung-min. She came from Lagos 20 years ago. He's from Busan. They wanted to celebrate both cultures." Nina sat across from him, and Michael noticed the tiredness around her eyes. "I've been working here for 2 years since I moved to Seoul. Double shifts most days. That's exhausting. Single mom?" Nina shrugged, like it explained everything, and it did. "My daughter Sage is 9. She's at home in our apartment in Haebangchon right now with my neighbor Mrs. Kim, probably conducting some kind of science experiment that will either win her a scholarship or burn down the kitchen." Michael laughed. It felt strange, using those muscles. "She sounds brilliant." "She is. Too smart for her own good sometimes." Nina's expression softened when she talked about her daughter. "She asks questions about everything in 3 languages. Why is the sky blue? How do planes fly? Why do some Koreans stare at us on the subway? Why can't people just be nice to each other?" "That last one is the hardest to answer," Michael said quietly. Nina looked at him, really looked at him, and Michael felt seen in a way he hadn't in years. Not as Ghost Chen, the feared Chinese-Korean strategist who had controlled Itaewon's underground economy. Not as the broken man in the wheelchair, just as a person. "What happened to you?" Nina asked. If you don't mind me asking. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, Michael said. It was the truth, just not all of it. 3 years ago in Yongsan, the bullet hit my spine. Doctors at Samsung Medical Center said I'd never walk again. And the person who shot you? Gone, Michael said. Everyone from that part of my life is gone. Nina poured herself a small glass of the Zobo soju. To starting over, she said, raising it. Michael clinked his glass against hers. To starting over. They talked for 2 hours. Nina told him about growing up in Lagos, Nigeria, about moving to Seoul 5 years ago for a teaching job that fell through, about learning Korean from K-dramas and persistence. She told him about her daughter's father, Marcus, also Nigerian, who had been charming until he wasn't, who had followed her to Seoul and made her life difficult until she got a restraining order. She told him about her dreams of opening her own restaurant someday, combining Nigerian and Korean flavors in ways that honored both cultures. Michael told her carefully edited versions of his life. His father had been Chinese, his mother Korean. He had grown up in both cultures, speaking both languages. He had been an import-export, working in Itaewon's international district. He had made money, but lost himself. The shooting had been random violence. Wrong place, wrong time. He was trying to figure out who he was now. When Nina's shift ended at 11, she walked Michael out to his accessible van. The rain had stopped, and Seoul smelled clean and new, the neon signs reflecting in the puddles. "Can I see you again?" Michael asked in Korean. Nina pulled a pen from her apron and wrote her number on his palm, the Korean digits neat and clear. "For the next time you need a decent conversation," she said. Then she smiled and walked toward the subway station, and Michael sat in his van watching her disappear into the crowd of late-night Itaewon, feeling something he thought had died with his ability to walk. Hope. Michael drove home to his apartment in Hanamdong, navigating Seoul's traffic with practiced ease. The building had been one of his properties from before, back when he controlled half of Itaewon and Yongsan's underground economy. Now it was just home, converted with ramps and accessible fixtures and empty rooms that echoed. He was transferring from his van to his wheelchair in the underground parking garage when he heard footsteps. His body tensed, old instincts flooding back. His hand moved toward the knife he kept hidden in his chair. "Hyung-nim, it's me." Jinsu Park stepped into the light, using the Korean term of respect for an older brother in the organization. Sonny, they had called him, because his smile could light up a room even when he was breaking someone's fingers. He was older now, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 3 years ago, but he still moved with the coiled energy of a man ready for violence. "I told you not to call me that anymore," Michael said in Korean, relaxing slightly. Old habits. Sonny helped him with the wheelchair, even though Michael didn't need help. "You went on a date in Itaewon? You're still having me followed?" Protected, not followed. Sonny's expression was serious. "And it's good I am. Alexei Volkov has been asking questions about you." Michael's blood went cold. Alexei Volkov was the head of the Russian Bratva in Seoul, controlling everything from Gangnam to Hongdae. When Michael had fallen 3 years ago, his organization had collapsed. Volkov had swept in and taken most of the territory, absorbing Michael's operations in Itaewon, Yongsan, even parts of Gangnam. They had maintained an uneasy peace, but only because Michael had disappeared completely from the life. "What kind of questions?" Michael asked. "Whether you're really retired or just waiting for the right moment to come back." "He's paranoid, Youngnim. He sees threats everywhere." Sonny paused. "He wants a meeting. Tell him I'm not interested." "I did. He said he'd make it worth your time." Sonny's voice dropped. "He knows about the woman, Hyung-nim, the Nigerian woman from tonight." Michael's hands clenched on his wheelchair. "He's threatening her?" "Not yet. But he's watching. He wants to make sure you're really out of the game." Sonny crouched down to Michael's eye level. "Maybe it's good, what happened tonight. Maybe having someone helps. But you know what happens to people who get close to us." Michael said nothing. He wheeled himself into the apartment and locked the door behind him. Inside, he went to the kitchen and pulled out Nina's number, written on his palm in blue pen. He should wash it off. He should block her number and never go back to Mama Ade's kitchen. He should protect her by staying away. Instead, he took a photo of the number with his phone and saved it. Then he stared at it for an hour, sitting in his wheelchair in the dark apartment, listening to the sounds of Seoul outside his window. The city he had once controlled. The city that had broken him. The city where he might, just maybe, find a reason to live again. At 2 a.m, he texted her, just 3 words in Korean. "Thank you for tonight." Her response came 5 minutes later. "Thank you for staying." Michael slept better that night than he had in 3 years. Over the next 2 weeks, Michael became a regular at Mama Ade's kitchen. He came every other night, always during Nina's shift, always ordering different combinations of the Afro-Korean fusion menu. He tried jollof rice with gochujang, suya with sesame oil, plantains with kimchi. Everything was delicious, but he wasn't really there for the food. He was there for Nina. They talked about everything. Nina told him about learning to navigate Seoul as a black woman, about the stares and the touching of her hair without permission, but also about the kindness of neighbors who helped her learn Korean, the ajumas at the market who gave Sage extra fruit, the growing community of Africans in Itaewon and Haebangchon who looked out for each other. "It's not easy," Nina said one night, wiping down tables after the dinner rush. "But nowhere is easy when you're different. At least here, there's opportunity, and the food is amazing." Michael told her about growing up between 2 cultures, Chinese and Korean, never quite fitting in either, about his father's disappointment that he wasn't Chinese enough, his mother's sadness that he wasn't Korean enough, about finding a place in Itaewon where international and mixed-race people could belong. "Is that why you stayed in this neighborhood?" Nina asked. "Even after everything?" "It's home," Michael said simply. "The only one I've ever really had." On the 3rd week, Nina asked if he wanted to meet Sage. Michael's heart hammered in his chest. "Are you sure? She's been asking about you. I told her I made a friend and she wants to meet you." Nina smiled. "She's very direct. She'll probably ask you inappropriate questions about your wheelchair." "I can handle inappropriate questions," Michael said. The next evening, Nina brought Sage to the restaurant after school. She was small for 9, with her mother's dark skin and bright, curious eyes. She wore a Korean school uniform and carried a backpack covered in science stickers. She studied Michael with the intensity of a researcher examining a new specimen. "Annyeonghaseyo," she said politely in Korean, bowing. "Annyeonghaseyo," Michael replied, bowing his head since he couldn't stand. "Mom says you can't walk. Why?" "Sage." Nina looked mortified. "It's okay," Michael said. "Someone shot me 3 years ago. The bullet hurt my spine, which is like the main wire that connects my brain to my legs. So now the signal can't get through." Sage considered this. "Like a broken cable?" "Exactly like a broken cable." "Can it be fixed?" "Probably not. The doctors tried everything." "That's sad." Sage tilted her head. "But your arms look really strong. Do you exercise?" Michael smiled. "Every day. Want to see something cool?" They went outside to the small courtyard behind the restaurant. Michael positioned his wheelchair carefully, then popped a wheelie, balancing on the back wheels. Sage's eyes went wide. Then he spun the chair in a tight circle, still balanced, before dropping back down smoothly. Sage applauded, jumping up and down. "That was amazing. Can you teach me?" "You'd need a wheelchair first," Michael pointed out. "Can I ride in yours?" Nina started to protest, but Michael was already gesturing for Sage to come closer. He showed her how to hold on safely, then took her for a quick spin around the courtyard. Sage shrieked with laughter, and something in Michael's chest cracked open, something that had been frozen for 3 years. When they returned, Nina was wiping tears from her eyes. "What's wrong, Mom?" Sage asked. "Nothing, baby. I'm just happy." They ate dinner together, the 3 of them, in a corner booth at Mama Ade's kitchen. Sage told Michael about her school, about how she was learning science in Korean, and it was hard, but exciting. She told him about her best friend Minji, who was Korean, and was teaching her taekwondo. She told him about missing Nigeria sometimes, missing her grandmother and the beach and the way mangoes tasted there. But Seoul is good too, Sage said seriously. The subways are clean and fast, and there's taekwondo and K-pop. Do you like K-pop? Some of it, Michael admitted. I like BTS and Blackpink. Minji likes 17. We dance to the songs at recess. Sage took a bite of her jollof rice with kimchi. Do you have kids? The question hit Michael like a punch. No. Why not? Sage, that's rude, Nina said gently. It's okay, Michael said again. I never found the right person to have kids with. And then I got hurt, and I thought maybe that ship had sailed. What does that mean, that ship had sailed? It means I thought the opportunity was gone. Sage frowned. But you're not that old, and Mom says it's never too late to have a family. She says family is who you choose, not just who you're born to. Michael looked at Nina. She was blushing, but she met his eyes steadily. Your mom is very wise, Michael said. After dinner, Michael walked them, wheeled himself alongside them, to the subway station. Sage held onto his wheelchair with one hand and her mother's hand with the other, chattering about everything and nothing. At the station entrance, Nina turned to him. Thank you, she said in Korean, for being so good with her. Thank you for letting me meet her. She's incredible. She likes you. That's rare. She's usually suspicious of men after... Nina trailed off. After her father, Michael finished. Yes. Nina's expression hardened. Marcus was charming at first, then controlling, then violent. The restraining order helps, but he still shows up sometimes, calls me names in front of Sage, tries to intimidate me. Rage bloomed in Michael's chest, hot and familiar. The old ghost Chen rage that could level buildings. He forced it down, kept his voice calm. If he ever threatens you, call me. Please. I can handle Marcus. I know you can, but you shouldn't have to handle him alone. Nina studied his face for a long moment. Then she leaned down and kissed his cheek. Good night, Ghost. Good night. Michael watched them descend into the subway, Sage waving enthusiastically until they disappeared from view. Then he sat there in his wheelchair on the busy Itaewon street, surrounded by the sounds of a dozen different languages, the smells of 100 different cuisines, and felt more alive than he had since the bullet. He was still sitting there when Sunny found him. Hyungnim, we have a problem. Michael sighed. Can't it wait until tomorrow? Marcus Adeyemi was just spotted in Haebangchon, near Nina's apartment building. Michael's blood turned to ice. How do you know where she lives? Because I'm protecting you, which means protecting anyone you care about. Sunny's expression was grim. Marcus was drunk, yelling in English and broken Korean. The neighbors called the police, but he left before they arrived. Take me there, now. Hyungnim, the restraining order. I don't care about the restraining order. Take me there now. They drove to Haebangchon in Sunny's car, Michael's wheelchair folded in the back. The neighborhood was quieter than Itaewon, more residential, with steep hills and narrow streets. Sunny pulled up near Nina's building, a modest apartment complex popular with foreign residents. There, Sunny said, pointing. Marcus Adeyemi stood near the entrance, a tall Nigerian man in his mid-30s, visibly drunk, arguing with someone on his phone in English. Even from a distance, Michael could see the anger radiating off him. Stay in the car, Michael said. Hyungnim, that's an order. Michael assembled his wheelchair and dropped into it, then wheeled himself across the street. Marcus was so absorbed in his phone argument that he didn't notice Michael's approach until he was right there. Marcus Adeyemi? Michael said in English. Marcus turned, surprised. Who the hell are you? A friend of Nina's. Marcus looked Michael up and down, taking in the wheelchair, and his expression turned contemptuous. The cripple from the restaurant. She tell you about me? She mentioned you. Said you like to threaten women and children. That's my family, not yours. This doesn't concern you, wheelchair boy. Michael's voice dropped to something cold and deadly. switching to Korean so the neighbors would understand. You're violating a restraining order. The police have been called. You have two choices. Leave now and never come back, or wait for them to arrive and go to jail. Marcus stepped closer, looming over Michael in his wheelchair. You think you can tell me what to do? You think you can take my woman? She's not your woman. She was never your woman. She's a person who made the mistake of loving you, and you responded by hurting her. That ends tonight. Marcus grabbed the front of Michael's shirt, yanking him forward. I could snap you in half, cripple. Michael moved faster than Marcus could process. His hand shot up, grabbed Marcus's wrist, and twisted with the precision of years of martial arts training. The leverage was perfect, the technique flawless. Marcus screamed and dropped to his knees. I may not be able to walk, Michael said calmly in English, still holding the pressure point, but I can still hurt you in ways you can't imagine. I spent 20 years learning how to break people. The wheelchair didn't change that. Let go. You're breaking my wrist. Nina and Sage are under my protection now. If you come near them again, if you call Nina, if you even think about them too hard, I will find you. I will hurt you, and then I will make you disappear. Do you understand? You're crazy. Michael applied more pressure. Marcus whimpered. Do you understand? Yes. Yes, I understand. Michael released him. Marcus scrambled backward, cradling his wrist. You're insane. I'm calling the police. Please do. Tell them how a man in a wheelchair defended himself from a violent drunk who was violating a restraining order. I'm sure that will go well for you. Marcus stared at him with hatred and fear. Then he turned and ran down the street, disappearing into the night. Michael sat there in his wheelchair, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He had just revealed himself, shown his violence. The ghost Chen that he had tried to bury was back, and it felt terrifying and thrilling and right. That was either very brave or very stupid, a voice said. Michael turned. Nina stood at the entrance to her building, wrapped in a jacket, her eyes wide. How long have you been there? Michael asked. Long enough. Nina walked closer. Mrs. Kim called me, said there was trouble. I came down ready to face Marcus myself, and instead I found you threatening to make him disappear. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. Who are you really? Michael Chen? The question hung in the air between them. Michael could lie. He should lie. But something in Nina's direct gaze made him want to tell the truth. Can we go somewhere to talk? He asked. Somewhere private? Nina considered for a long moment. Then she nodded. Mrs. Kim is watching Sage. There's a cafe still open around the corner. They went to a small 24-hour cafe, the kind that catered to students and insomniacs. Nina ordered tea. Michael ordered coffee. They sat in a back corner where no one could overhear. I wasn't always in a wheelchair, Michael began. 3 years ago, I was one of the most powerful men in Itaewon and Yongsan. They called me Ghost because I moved through the city unseen, controlled the underground economy, protected the international communities. I wasn't a good man, Nina. I hurt people. I threatened people. I did things I'm not proud of. Nina's expression was unreadable. You were a gangster. Yes. Chinese-Korean organized crime. Import-export was my cover, but really I controlled everything from protection rackets to illegal gambling to smuggling. I told myself I was helping the immigrant communities, protecting them from worse criminals. But mostly, I was just building power. And the shooting? A rival organization. They ambushed me in one of my warehouses. I survived, but barely. The bullet destroyed my spine. While I was in the hospital, my organization fell apart. People I trusted betrayed me or disappeared. My territory was absorbed by the Russians. When I finally got out, I had nothing except this wheelchair and more blood on my hands than I can ever wash off. Nina was quiet for a long time, stirring her tea. Michael waited for her to stand up and walk away. He deserved it. Why didn't you tell me before? She finally asked. Because I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to be the kind of man who deserves someone like you and Sage. But tonight, when I heard Marcus was threatening you, the old me came back. I'm sorry. Are you sorry you protected me? Or sorry I found out who you used to be? I'm sorry I lied to you. I'm not sorry I protected you. Nina looked at him, and Michael saw the war in her eyes. Fear and attraction, caution and curiosity. She had every reason to run. I need you to promise me something, Nina said finally. If your past comes for you, if those Russian gangsters or anyone else from your old life threatens you or me or Sage, you tell me. No secrets. No protecting me by hiding things. We face it together. Or we don't face it at all. You're not leaving? Michael couldn't keep the shock out of his voice. I should. Every logical part of my brain is screaming at me to take Sage and run. Nina reached across the table and took his hand. But I grew up in Lagos. I know what it's like to survive in a dangerous world. I know the difference between men who hurt because they enjoy it and men who hurt to protect. Marcus enjoyed it. You're trying to be better. I don't deserve you. Maybe not. But Sage likes you, and I like you. And you just chased off my abusive ex-boyfriend like some kind of wheelchair-bound action hero. Nina smiled, but it was shaky. So here's the deal. You be honest with me from now on. All of it. And if your past comes calling, we handle it together. Can you do that? Michael squeezed her hand. I can do that. Good. Nina took a sip of her tea. Now tell me everything. I want to know exactly what kind of danger I'm walking into. So Michael told her everything. About growing up mixed in a country that didn't always accept mixed children. About finding a place in the international communities of Itaewon where diversity was strength. About building an organization that protected immigrant businesses from Korean gangs and corrupt police. About the money and the power and the violence. About the enemies he had made. About Alexei Volkov and the Russians who now controlled his territory. About Sonny and the few loyal men who still checked on him. About the blood and the guilt and the wheelchair that was somehow both his punishment and his salvation. Nina listened to all of it. She didn't interrupt. She didn't judge. She just listened. When he finished, she said, You're right, you weren't a good man, but you're trying to be one now. That counts for something. Does it count enough? I don't know yet, but I'm willing to find out. Nina stood up. Walk me home? Wheel you home, Michael corrected with a small smile. Wheel me home, then. They left the cafe and made their way slowly through the steep streets of Haebangchon. Nina told him more about her life in Lagos, about the violence she had seen there, about why she understood his world better than he might think. She told him about her grandmother who had survived the Biafran War, about learning early that sometimes violence was the only language certain people understood. I'm not naive, Nina said. I know the world is dangerous. I know there are bad people. I just need to know that you're not one of them anymore. I'm trying not to be. Then that's enough for now. At her building, Nina leaned down and kissed him properly this time. Not on the cheek, but on the mouth, soft and brief and full of promise. Good night, ghost, she said. Good night. Michael watched her disappear inside, then sat in his wheelchair on the quiet street, feeling like his world had just shifted on its axis. She knew everything now, and she was still here. Sonny pulled up in his car. Hyung-nim, we need to talk about Volkov. Tomorrow, Michael said. Tonight, I just want to feel this. Feel what? Hope. Over the next month, Michael and Nina's relationship deepened. He visited the restaurant almost every day, sometimes with Sage, sometimes just Nina. They went on dates to accessible places around Seoul, museums with ramps, parks with paved paths, restaurants with wide doorways. Nina taught him Yoruba. Phrases. He taught her more Korean slang. Sage appointed herself his Korean culture teacher, dragging him to Noribang rooms and teaching him K-pop dances that he performed sitting in his wheelchair, making her laugh until she cried. Michael also returned to physical therapy with a determination he hadn't felt in years. His therapist, Dr. Park, was thrilled. Whatever changed, keep it up, Dr. Park said during a session. Your muscle tone is improving. Your flexibility is better. You're actually trying now. I have reasons to try, Michael said. Nina sometimes came to his therapy sessions, sitting in the corner working on her GED study materials. The Korean equivalency test was difficult, but she was determined. Michael had secretly hired a tutor for her, paying through an anonymous scholarship. When she got accepted to community college classes, she cried on his shoulder for an hour. "I never thought I'd go to college," she said. "In Lagos it was impossible. My family was too poor, and then I had Sage, and I was just trying to survive. But now you can be anything you want," Michael finished. "Thank you for believing in me. You made me believe in myself first." But the peace couldn't last forever. Michael knew it. Sonny knew it. And eventually, Alexei Volkov stopped being patient. The meeting request came on a cold November evening. Sonny arrived at Michael's apartment with an envelope. Inside was a single card with an address in Gangnam and a time, midnight tonight. "He's not asking anymore, Youngnam," Sonny said. "This is a summons." "What does he want?" "To make sure you're really out, or to eliminate the threat if you're not." Sonny's expression was grave. "You need to go. If you don't, he'll come to you. And he knows about Nina and Sage now." Michael's blood ran cold. "You're sure?" "His men have been photographing them, following Nina to work, Sage to school. Nothing violent yet, but the message is clear. He can reach them anytime he wants." Michael stared at the card, rage building in his chest. "Set it up. Just me and Volkov. No weapons. Neutral ground." "Youngnim, that's suicide." "No, it's negotiation. He wants to know if I'm a threat. I'll show him I'm not." "By doing what?" "By giving him everything." The meeting was in a private room at an upscale Noraebang in Gangnam, the kind where business deals and criminal negotiations happen behind soundproof walls. Michael arrived exactly at midnight, Sonny wheeling him inside. Alexei Volkov sat on a leather couch, flanked by two large men who looked like they ate nails for breakfast. He was in his 50s, silver-haired, expensive suit, eyes like a shark. He smiled when he saw Michael. "Ghost Chen," or should I say former Ghost Chen. Volkov's Korean was heavily accented, but fluent. "Thank you for coming." "You didn't leave me much choice," Michael replied in Russian, which he had learned years ago for exactly this kind of situation. Volkov's eyebrows rose. "You speak Russian. Impressive. Please sit. Or, you are sitting already. My apologies." The comment was intentionally cruel, reminding Michael of his disability. Michael wheeled closer, maintaining eye contact. "What do you want, Volkov?" "Assurance. You controlled Itaewon and Yongsan for 10 years. You were powerful, feared. Then you disappeared. Now you're back, making friends, going to restaurants, threatening people in the street. It makes me wonder, is the ghost really gone, or just waiting for the right moment to reclaim his territory?" "I'm not interested in territory anymore. Forgive me if I don't believe you. Men like us don't just walk away. We're sharks. We die if we stop swimming." "Some sharks learn to rest on the ocean floor," Michael said. "I'm done swimming." Volkov leaned forward. "Prove it." "How?" "Sign over everything. Every remaining asset, every connection, every piece of territory you still technically hold in Itaewon. Give it all to me officially, legally. Show me you're truly out." Michael had expected this. "And in return?" "In return, Nina Adeyemi and her daughter Sage become untouchable. My organization will never threaten them, harm them, or even look at them too hard. They live their lives in peace, even if they're with you. How do I know you'll keep that promise?" Volkov pulled out a knife. Michael tensed, but Volkov simply held out his palm and drew the blade across it, blood welling up. "A blood oath. In Russian tradition, this binds us. You give me everything, I guarantee their safety. If either of us breaks the oath, the other has the right to destroy them completely." Michael stared at the knife, at Volkov's bleeding hand, at the weight of what was being offered. Everything he had built, every scrap of power and influence, every connection that had taken years to forge. All of it, gone. But he saw Nina's face, Sage's laugh, the family he never thought he could have. "Give me the knife," Michael said. Sonny tried to stop him. "Hyungnim, please. Think about this." "I have thought about it. This is the only way." Michael took the knife and cut his own palm, then clasped hands with Volkov, their blood mixing. I, Michael Chen, surrender all territory, assets, and influence in Itaewon, Yongsan, and Greater Seoul to Alexei Volkov. In return, Nina Adeyemi and Sage Adeyemi are under permanent protection, untouchable by any organization connected to either of us. Volkov smiled. I, Alexei Volkov, accept these terms and swear to uphold them. The women are safe. You are free. They released hands. Volkov's men brought paperwork, transfer documents, deeds, bank accounts, all prepared in advance. Michael signed everything, watching 20 years of his life disappear in ink and blood. When it was done, Volkov stood and extended his hand again, this time for a normal handshake. You surprise me, Ghost. Most men would choose power over love. You're either very wise or very foolish. Maybe both, Michael said, shaking the offered hand. For what it's worth, I respect your choice. Enjoy your retirement and your family. Volkov's smile was almost genuine. Just remember, you come back into the game and this oath is void. You stay out and they stay safe. Choose wisely. Michael left the Norebang feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because the threat was gone. Heavier because he had just severed his last connection to the man he used to be. Sonny drove him home in silence. Finally, as they pulled up to Michael's building, Sonny said, You did the right thing, Hyungnim. Don't call me that anymore. I'm not your boss. I'm not anyone's boss. I'm just Michael now. You'll always be my Hyungnim. But I understand. Sonny helped him into his wheelchair. What will you do now? Live. Really live for the first time in my life. The next morning, Michael told Nina everything that had happened. They sat in his apartment drinking coffee, watching Seoul wake up through the floor-to-ceiling windows. You gave up everything, Nina said quietly. For us. Not for you. For the chance to be with you. There's a difference. Is there? You didn't ask me to do this. You didn't demand I choose between you and my past. I chose because I wanted to, because you and Sage are more valuable to me than any amount of power. Nina was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I need to tell you something. Something I've been afraid to say. What is it? I love you, Michael Chen. I love your broken parts, and your trying to be better parts. I love how you make Sage laugh. I love how hard you work in physical therapy. I love that you gave up everything just for a chance to be with us. And it terrifies me. Michael pulled her into his lap, his wheelchair creaking slightly under their combined weight. It terrifies me too. I've never felt this before. Never wanted anything as much as I want this to work. What if it doesn't? What if your past comes back? What if... He kissed her, cutting off her fears. Then we handle it. Together. That's what you said, remember? We face it together. Nina kissed him back, fierce and desperate. Together, she agreed. But Michael's past wasn't done with them yet. 2 weeks later, Nina's apartment was broken into. She and Sage weren't home. They were at the restaurant, but the place was ransacked. Nothing was stolen, but everything was destroyed. Furniture overturned, clothes scattered, photos torn from walls, and on the mirror in Nina's bedroom, written in red spray paint, Volkov doesn't forget. Michael arrived to find Nina standing in the wreckage, holding Sage, who was crying into her shoulder. The police were there taking statements, but everyone knew they wouldn't do anything. This was gang business. I thought you said we were safe, Nina said, her voice hollow. We were. We are. This isn't Volkov. Michael's mind raced. It's someone else, someone who wants to hurt Volkov by breaking our agreement. Sonny appeared in the doorway, and his expression confirmed Michael's suspicions. Hyungnim, we need to talk. Outside. In the hallway, Sonny explained. It's Dmitry Petrov, Volkov's nephew. He's been trying to take over for years, thinks his uncle is getting soft. He found out about the blood oath and sees you as an opportunity. An opportunity for what? To prove Volkov can't protect his interests. If something happens to Nina or Sage despite the oath, Volkov looks weak. Dmitri gains power. You're just a pawn in their family war. Michael felt rage bloom in his chest, the old Ghost Chen rage that could level cities. Where is Dmitri now? Hyung-nim, you can't. You're out. The oath. The oath was to protect them. If I don't stop Dmitri, they'll never be safe. Where is he? Sunny hesitated, then sighed. He's at a club in Hongdae. But Hyung-nim, if you go after him, you're back in the game. You lose everything you sacrificed. Michael looked back through the doorway at Nina holding Sage, both of them scared and shaking in the ruins of their home. He thought about the life he had imagined, quiet dinners, helping Sage with homework, growing old with Nina, peaceful, safe, normal. But peace required war first. Safety required sacrifice. And normal was never going to be possible for a man like him. Get the car, Michael said. I'm ending this tonight. The club in Hongdae was exactly the kind of place Michael used to frequent. Loud music, expensive drinks, rooms in the back where illegal deals happened. Sonny and 3 of Michael's old crew, men who had stayed loyal even after the fall, went in first to secure an exit. Michael wheeled in through the accessible entrance, drawing stares, the Ghost Chen in a wheelchair. People whispered, some laughed. Let them. Dmitri Petrov sat in a VIP booth surrounded by young Russian thugs who thought they were tough because they carried guns and sneered a lot. He saw Michael approaching and grinned. The cripple himself. Come to beg me to leave your little African family alone? Dmitri's Korean was worse than his uncle's, his contempt universal. Michael wheeled right up to the table. I came to give you a choice. Stop threatening Nina and Sage, apologize to your uncle for breaking his oath, and leave Seoul. Or don't, and face the consequences. Dmitri laughed, and his crew laughed with him. Consequences? From a man in a wheelchair? What are you going to do? Roll over my foot? Michael moved faster than Dmitri could process. He grabbed the edge of the table and flipped it with the strength he had built in 3 years of using only his arms. Bottles and glasses flew. Dmitri's crew reached for weapons, but Sonny and the others were already there, guns drawn. The fuck? Dmitri started. Michael grabbed Dmitri by the collar and yanked him down to wheelchair level, his face inches away. I may not be able to walk, but I can still hurt you in ways you can't imagine. I spent 20 years learning how to break people. The wheelchair didn't change that. It just made me more creative. He twisted Dmitri's arm behind his back with practiced precision, applying pressure to the shoulder joint. Dmitri screamed. The crew tried to move, but Sonny's men had them covered. You made a mistake, Michael continued, his voice cold. You thought my disability made me weak. You thought you could use my family to hurt your uncle. But you forgot something important. I gave up power to protect them. That means there's nothing I won't do to keep them safe. No law I won't break. No line I won't cross. No body I won't bury. He applied more pressure. Something in Dmitri's shoulder popped. The Russian sobbed. Now here's what's going to happen, Michael said. You're going to call your uncle right now. You're going to confess what you did. You're going to apologize for breaking his oath, and then you're going to leave Seoul and never come back. If you don't, I will hunt you down and demonstrate exactly what Ghost Chen was capable of before the wheelchair. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. Michael released him. Dmitri collapsed, cradling his shoulder. One of Sonny's men handed him a phone. With shaking hands, Dmitri called Volkov. The conversation was in Russian, but Michael understood every word. Dmitri confessed everything. The break-in, the threats, his plan to undermine Volkov's authority. On the other end, Volkov's voice was ice-cold fury. When the call ended, Dmitri looked at Michael with tears streaming down his face. He's disowning me. Because of you. No. Because of your own stupidity. Michael turned his wheelchair toward the exit. You have 24 hours to leave Seoul. If I see you again, I'll finish what I started. Outside, Sonny was waiting by the car. That was either brilliant or insane, Hyung-nim. Probably both. Michael's hands were shaking from adrenaline. Take me to Nina. They had moved Nina and Sage to Michael's apartment temporarily. When he arrived, Nina was sitting on the couch, Sage asleep with her head in her mother's lap. Nina looked up when Michael wheeled in, and her expression was unreadable. Is it over? She asked. It's over. Volkov's nephew was behind it. He's been dealt with. Dealt with how? Michael told her everything. The confrontation, the violence, the threats. He didn't sugarcoat it. She had asked for honesty, and he owed her that. When he finished, Nina was quiet for a long time. She gently moved Sage's head to a pillow and stood up, walking to the window. Seoul glittered below them, millions of lights against the darkness. "I can't do this, Michael," she said finally. His heart stopped. "Can't do what?" "I can't live in a world where men break into our home, where you have to hurt people to keep us safe, where Sage wakes up crying because she's afraid." Nina's voice broke. "I came to Seoul to escape violence. I got a restraining order against Marcus to escape violence, and now I'm back in it because of you." "Nina, please. I love you. God help me, I love you so much it hurts. But I love Sage more, and she deserves better than this. She deserves safety, stability, a normal childhood. Not this." Nina turned to face him, tears streaming down her face. "I'm taking her back to Lagos. My mother will help us. We'll start over again." "No." Michael wheeled closer. "No, please. I can fix this. I can—" "You can't fix it, Michael. This is who you are. This is your world, and I can't bring my daughter into it. I'm sorry. You said we'd face it together. I was wrong. I can't ask a 9-year-old to face this. I'm her mother. I have to protect her, even if it means leaving you." Michael felt something break inside him, worse than the bullet, worse than losing his legs. "I love you," he said desperately. "I love both of you. You're my family. And you're a danger to my family. I'm sorry, Michael. I'm so sorry." Nina walked past him to the bedroom where Sage slept. Michael sat in his wheelchair in the empty living room, staring at his hands. The hands that had built an empire. The hands that had destroyed it. The hands that had just lost everything that mattered. Sunny found him there an hour later, still sitting in the dark. "She's leaving, isn't she?" Sunny asked quietly. "Yes." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know." But Michael did know. He knew exactly what he had to do. It would cost him everything one more time. But if it meant Nina and Sage could be safe, could have the life they deserved, then it was worth it. He called Volkov. "Ghost Chen, to what do I owe the pleasure at 2 a.m? "I need your help," Michael said. "One last favor. I believe our business is concluded. It's not for me, it's for them." Michael explained the situation. Explained that Nina was leaving because she didn't feel safe, because violence kept following them despite the blood oath. He proposed a solution. He would leave Seoul entirely, relocate somewhere Volkov had no presence, take himself completely out of the picture. In return, he needed Volkov to spread the word in the underworld. Nina Adeyemi and Sage Adeyemi were under permanent protection. Anyone who touched them would answer to the entire Russian Bratva, make them so protected that no one would dare threaten them, even with Michael gone. Volkov was quiet for a long moment. "You would exile yourself to protect them?" Without hesitation. "Where would you go?" "I don't know. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere I can't cause problems for anyone." Another long pause. Then Volkov said, "I underestimated you, Ghost. You're not weak. You're just human. It's almost admirable." He sighed. "I'll do as you ask. Nina and Sage will be untouchable in Seoul. No one will harm them, threaten them, or even look at them wrong. You have my word and my resources behind it. Thank you. But Ghost, don't come back. Ever. If you return to Seoul, the protection ends. Understand?" "I understand." Michael hung up and sat in the darkness, feeling the weight of what he had just agreed to. Exile. Never seeing Nina or Sage again. Living somewhere alone, carrying the ghost of what might have been. But they would be safe. That was all that mattered. The next morning, Nina found him packing. She stood in the doorway of his bedroom, watching him fold clothes into a suitcase balanced on his lap. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Leaving Seoul. I made a deal with Volkov. You and Sage will be protected, but I have to go. It's the only way you'll truly be safe." "Michael, it's okay. You were right. I'm a danger to you. So I'm removing the danger. He couldn't look at her. If he looked at her, he would break. Sonny will watch over you from a distance, make sure you're okay. You can stay in this apartment if you want. It's paid off. Or go back to Lagos if that's better. Whatever you choose, you'll be safe. You're leaving Korea? I'm leaving everything. Nina walked into the room and closed the door behind her. And you're making this decision without talking to me first? You said you were leaving. I'm just making it easier for you. Michael Chen, look at me. He looked. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was something fierce in them too. I said I couldn't do this because I was scared, because I was thinking like a victim, like someone who just runs away when things get hard. But you know what Sage asked me this morning? Michael shook his head. She asked me why we're always running away from people we love. First her father, now you. She asked me if we're ever going to stop running and start fighting for the people who fight for us. Nina sat on the bed next to his wheelchair. And she was right. I've spent my whole life running from danger, but maybe it's time to stop running and start choosing who's worth the risk. Nina, you don't understand. The violence will never completely stop. There will always be threats, always be danger. That's the world I come from. I grew up in Lagos during political violence. I've seen things that would give you nightmares. I know danger, Michael. And you know what I learned? Nowhere is truly safe. Not Lagos, not Seoul, not anywhere. So maybe instead of looking for a safe place, I should be looking for safe people. People who would give up everything to protect me. People who would exile themselves rather than put me at risk. What are you saying? I'm saying that I was wrong last night. I was scared and I panicked. But I was wrong. Nina took his hands. You're not the danger, Michael. You're the one protecting us from danger. And I was a fool not to see that. But Sage adores you. She's been crying all morning because she thinks you're leaving. She wants you to teach her more Korean. She wants you to come to her school's science fair. She wants you to be her family. Michael felt tears streaming down his face. I want that too, more than anything. But I can't ask you to accept this life. You're not asking. I'm choosing. I'm choosing you, Michael. I'm choosing us. I'm choosing to stop running and start building something worth protecting. Nina kissed him. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me we'll leave Seoul. Not because you're being exiled, but because we're starting fresh. Somewhere quieter. Somewhere Sage can grow up without this darkness hanging over us. Somewhere we can just be a family. Michael had never imagined leaving by choice. Leaving for something instead of running from something. Where would we go? I don't know. Somewhere beautiful. Somewhere with mountains maybe, or an ocean. Somewhere we can all breathe. Nina smiled. Your physical therapist said you're doing well enough to try new treatments. Maybe we go somewhere with good medical facilities. Start fresh for all of us. What about your job? Your life here? My job is at a restaurant. I can work at a restaurant anywhere. And my life is wherever Sage is. If you're there too, then that's home. Michael pulled her close, buried his face in her shoulder and cried. Real, honest tears for the first time since the shooting. Not tears of pain or loss, but tears of relief and hope and overwhelming gratitude. Okay, he whispered. Okay, let's do it. Let's start over. Nina held him tight. Together, she said. Together. They decided on Jeju Island. It was still Korea, but separate enough to feel like a new beginning. The island had good medical facilities for Michael's continued therapy, excellent schools for Sage, a large enough city for Nina to find work, but small enough to feel safe. And it had beaches and mountains, and the kind of natural beauty that made everything else seem less heavy. The next 2 months were a whirlwind. Michael sold his Seoul apartment and most of his remaining assets. Nina gave notice at Mama Ade's kitchen, though Mama Ade cried and made her promise to visit. Sage said goodbye to her school friends but was excited about the adventure. Sunny helped them move, hiring a company to transport everything to Jeju. You're really doing this, Youngnim, Sunny said as they packed the last boxes. I really am. I'm proud of you for choosing love over power. Not many men can do that. What about you? What will you do now? Sonny smiled. Maybe I'll start my own thing. Something legitimate. Security consulting for foreign businesses in Seoul. Use my skills for good instead of chaos. That sounds perfect. And Hyungnam? Sonny gripped Michael's shoulder. If you ever need me for anything, I'm just a phone call away. You're my brother. That doesn't change just because you're leaving Seoul. Thank you, Sonny, for everything. They moved to Jeju in early spring. The house they found was perfect. Single story for wheelchair accessibility, a garden where Sage could play, close enough to the beach that they could hear the waves at night. It cost less than Michael's Seoul apartment, and the money he saved went into a college fund for Sage and Nina's tuition. Nina enrolled in Jeju National University's hospitality program, studying to eventually open her own restaurant. Sage thrived at her new international school, making friends easily and joining the science club. Michael continued his physical therapy with renewed determination, and his new doctor was optimistic about experimental treatments that might restore some sensation to his legs. But more than any of that, they were happy. Michael cooked dinner most nights while Nina studied, teaching Sage traditional Korean and Chinese dishes alongside Nigerian recipes Nina's mother sent. They had movie nights where Sage picked terrible K-dramas and made them watch every episode. They went to the beach on weekends, Michael's wheelchair rolling easily on the accessible paths, Sage collecting shells, and Nina reading on a blanket. 6 months after moving to Jeju, Michael took Nina hiking. There was a trail near their house that was fully accessible, winding through volcanic rock formations to an overlook that showed the entire southern coast of the island. At the overlook, with Sage distracted by exploring the rocks, Michael pulled Nina close. I spent years being ghost, he said in Korean, their private language that Sage was still learning. Untouchable, powerful, alone. Then I spent years being broken, bitter, waiting to die. You gave me a third option, being human, being loved, being a father. He pulled out a simple ring, a band of silver with a small African opal that reminded him of Nina's eyes. Marry me. Build this life with me. Let me spend every day earning the family you've given me. Nina was crying, but she was smiling too. You already earned it, she said. Yes, of course, yes. They kissed, while Sage, who had been secretly watching, cheered and jumped up and down on the volcanic rocks. Does this mean Michael is officially my dad now? Do you want him to be? Nina asked. Sage ran to Michael's wheelchair and threw her arms around him. Yes. Can I call you Dad? Michael's heart felt too big for his chest. I would be honored. 3 months later, they married in a small ceremony on the beach. Sonny flew in to be best man, along with a few of Michael's old crew who had gone legitimate. Nina's mother and sister came from Lagos, crying happy tears and welcoming Michael into their family. Mama Aid and her husband came from Seoul, bringing half the restaurant's menu as a wedding gift. Sage was flower girl and took her job incredibly seriously, throwing petals with scientific precision. For the ceremony, Michael insisted on standing. His physical therapy had progressed enough that he could use forearm crutches for short distances. It was painful and difficult, but when Nina walked down the makeshift aisle on the sand, he wanted to meet her on his feet. She cried when she saw him standing. So did Sage. So did Sonny. Hell, even Michael cried. His vows were simple. I was taught that power is everything. You taught me that love is the only power that matters. Thank you for choosing me. I'll spend my life choosing you back, every single day. Nina's vows were equally simple. You gave up your kingdom for us. So I give you my heart, my daughter, and my future. Let's build something beautiful together. They kissed while the waves crashed behind them and their small gathering cheered, and Michael thought about the journey that had brought him here. The violence and the pain, the bullet and the wheelchair, the loss and the redemption. Every dark moment had been worth it to arrive at this one perfect moment of light. After the ceremony, as the sun set over the ocean and Sage danced with the other children on the beach, Nina found Michael sitting in his wheelchair at the edge of the water. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, sitting in his lap. "How 3 years ago I wanted to die. I had lost everything. I was broken and alone and convinced I would never be happy again." He kissed her forehead. "And now, I have everything that actually matters. I'm the luckiest man alive." "We're the lucky ones," Nina said. "You showed us what real strength looks like. Not power or violence, but the courage to choose love, even when it costs everything." "It didn't cost everything. It gave me everything." They sat there together as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold, watching Sage play on the beach, listening to the sound of their friends laughing behind them. Michael's past was still there, scars on his body and soul that would never fully heal. But his future was right here. Nina's hand in his, Sage's laughter in his ears, a family built not from blood, but from choice and sacrifice and love. He had been Ghost Chen, the feared strategist of Seoul's underworld. Then he had been a broken man in a wheelchair, convinced his life was over. Now he was just Michael, a husband, a father, a man who had finally learned that the only power worth having was the power to love and be loved in return. And that was more than enough. If you enjoyed Michael, Nina, and Sage's journey from brokenness to healing, from violence to peace, from loneliness to family, please subscribe to see more stories about second chances and redemption. Drop a comment below telling us your favorite moment from their story, and like this video to help others find this tale of love conquering all. Remember, true strength isn't about power. It's about having the courage to choose love even when it costs everything. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.